Bit of odd turn of events taking place with the audit, the ballot audit in Arizona. This week, the data, it's being reported, was packed up and shipped from Arizona to a forest in Montana to what they're calling a lab facility to, they're going to perform the forensic tests on the data that's now in a forest. I wish I were making this up, but this is exactly what CNN reported. I have to read this report here. This is, raw story talking about this. CNN reports that the data was shipped to property in Montana owned by Cipher LLC, a contractor hired by vote audit firm Cyber Ninjas to analyze data. However, the so-called lab's exact location in the state remains a secret. CNN reporter Gary Tuchman did some detective work and discovered a piece of property owned by Cipher's CEO in Montana, but he could not determine whether that location was the one where the data was taken. The property in question was located deep within the woods and features a large house, a smaller cabin, and a barn. So, for all we know at this point, the data that's about to undergo forensic audit might be sitting in a fucking barn in Montana. That's where we're at. That's where we're at with this, folks. That data might be sitting in a barn in the woods in Montana for all we know. Because this whole thing is a total and complete farce. This is insane. The fact that the U.S. Department of Justice hasn't stepped in and put an end to this at this point, this is a freak show. This is an absolute Republican freak show. And the DOJ should have stepped in weeks ago to put a stop to this. We know there's no fraud. We know that because we already had audits. We've actually had multiple other independent ballot audits in the state of Arizona. We have had recounts. We have had signature verification. We have gone through all of the steps that were necessary to make sure there was no fraud and they couldn't find any. But Republicans have turned our entire democratic process into a friggin' joke. And that's what we're living with now. And now this data is going off somewhere where we don't get to see it. Hell, they don't even know where the hell it's actually going. We don't know what they're going to do to it. And that's the scary part. These idiots could emerge from those woods, step out of the barn in 2 weeks and say, hey, we got 800,000 cases of fraud here from the data we looked at. So we're good. Yeah, this whole thing's fraud. All fraud. Nothing but fraud. Cool, can we see your data? No, you can't. It's still in the barn. Sorry. We don't know what they're going to do to it. We know that these organizations should not be trusted, at least Cyber Ninjas. I don't know much about Cipher, obviously, and they're the ones who have the data now. But this is not transparent in any way, and it has to be, or else the whole thing can't be trusted. I'm terrified about what's going to come out of this, not because I think there was legitimate voter fraud, but because after reading this story, I firmly believe that these Republican groups have now shipped this data away so they can manipulate it and then try to sell it back to us as fraud. Thanks for watching, and if you like what you saw, don't forget to like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe to our Ring of Fire channel here.